Well, everyone, I decided to do it. My body is finally ready to become the painter I've always wanted to be. And if you're like me and you want to start your way down that painting journey, stick around. We'll talk about some of the most basic things everyone should know when they get into miniature painting. So I wanted this to be a quick video. I wanted this to be something where we could go over some of the basic painting practices that everyone should know when they get into miniature painting. I've learned throughout time that some of these things are stuff that they teach you in art school to just kind of teach you how to paint in general. And so hopefully this will be beneficial to anyone watching this who wants to paint anything. But specifically, we're going to be talking about miniatures.
Tabletop miniatures.
So, number one on our list is going to be dry brushing. When I first decided I wanted to get into this hobby, when I first decided I wanted to start painting miniatures, I was super overwhelmed because I thought, I'm going to be horrible. I'm going to suck. And you look online and you see so many people who do fantastic jobs. But for as many are out there that do great jobs, there are people that do horrible jobs. And you've seen them. I mean, I've painted some of them in the beginning. And so I wanted to get a little bit better. And so as I was watching other content creators, something that I came across a bunch was something called dry brushing. And dry brushing is simple. It's easy. Everyone should have the tools to do it in their house. Basically, all it takes is a makeup brush. Like any kind of makeup brush. I use my special purple, fancy purple that I stole from my wife. And what you do is you get paint and you put it on a dry surface. Now, I use paper towels because that's kind of what I was shown. But I realized that that's not the best way to do it. You could do it on cardboard. You could do it on a piece of wood, something that is dry, something that won't absorb the moisture too much. And you'll see people that have dry brushing palettes, which are sprues, sprues from their miniatures just glued down onto a surface where they can practice on those. Same difference. And anyway, you get as little paint on the brush as you can. And I know that sounds weird, but you basically want as little paint all over the brush that you can get. And so you just kind of dab it in there, dry it off as much as you can, make sure it's all around there, and then you just start brushing the surface of whatever you're doing. Okay, I love this for painting stonework, because you can give it that good stone look, like you're inside of a dungeon, and it's super easy. I mean, it took me 2 minutes to paint this. And it's just an awesome tool to have in your arsenal of dry brushing. And don't think you can only use it on stone. Some dry brushed metal is some of the best metal that I've seen in this hobby. And we'll go over that a little bit in this video too. Just kind of the differences there. But dry brushing is awesome. If you don't know how to do it, practice, try it out on a couple things. It's amazing. You'll love it. You'll use it all the time. Painters, the big, really good painters, they dry brush from time to time on different projects. Like, it's just a fast, easy way to make something look really good. Number two, this is one that I heard about 10, 20, 30 times and never had anyone just explain to me what it is. And that is Zenithal Priming. And what Zenithal Priming is where you take your white primer, your light colored primer, and you spray it on a miniature or something like this, but you do it from a specific angle. It's supposed to simulate sunlight, and so if the sunlight is coming from up there, you would spray from that direction down onto the miniature, and make sure everything's nice and bright and white there. And then everything underneath it would still be dark, would still be whatever you primed it originally. Or if it's, if you didn't prime it, it'd still just be that gray or whatever color your model is. Most of the time in Zenithal Priming, they will prime it black and then come in with the highlight afterwards. And then as you're painting stuff, it'll naturally be that the areas that were white are lighter than the areas that are black. I mean, it's just how it is. If you take a red paintbrush and you paint over white, if you've thinned the paint, keep in mind, it'll be more pink on the white parts and a darker red on the parts underneath. And so it's kind of like, hey, you don't have to shade this, just Zenithal Prime it and then paint it. And it'll take care of that for you. So that's what Zenithal Priming is. Took me forever to figure it out. Really useful, really easy. Like, there's so many of these like little tricks to make painting easier. And that, again, it doesn't have to apply to just miniatures. It can apply to anything that you're painting that's three-dimensional, you know, because you're going to be priming in that direction. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay. Up next, number 3 is something that I talk about a lot on this channel, and I kind of make fun of it just because when I started doing YouTube, when I started creating videos, it was everywhere. Everyone had a Slapchop video. A lot of people had videos making fun of the Slapchop and calling it different names.
They make fun of him, they call him names.
People went through and made it a little better, but basically what the Slapchop is you prime the miniature black. So the whole miniature is black, and then you dry brush the whole thing with white. You dry brush the whole thing, top to bottom, with white, making sure to leave those crevices, those dark areas, black, obviously, because you're just dry brushing, you're just going over the top. Quick dry brush over the top. And then you have this miniature that is white everywhere that needs to stand out and dark in all the recesses. And then you paint it with what's called a contrast paint. Contrast paints are thinned down paints. They're translucent, transparent, I don't know, one of those. See-through.
This boy's a genius.
They're see-through colors, so like a see-through red or see-through green. And you paint whatever you need to in one coat of that contrast paint. Lay it on there pretty thick and you let it dry. And when it dries, all the light areas are a light color of whatever you use, and all the dark areas are a dark color of whatever you used. It's honestly just a fast way to paint something and make it look decent. Now, competitive painters, are they slap chopping? No. Okay, they might start out with a Zenithal Prime. They might start out priming it black and then dry brushing the whole thing white. But then they're going to go in and they're going to add everything they need to add to it. They're going to, you know, add a million colors, do a million different things, which leads me into number 4 of this little lesson, and that is blending. All that blending is taking 2 colors of paint and working them together.
What if we combine them?
And what I mean by that is, up here you have a nice blue color, and you want to transition that into a dark purple. Blending is what allows you to do that and make it look smooth. So there's not just blue, 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 purple. It's blue, a little bit darker blue, a little bit darker blue, a little bit darker blue, a little purple, a lighter purple, into a darker purple, into a darker purple, into a darker purple. It's those transitions where you blend one color into another one. And I've seen a lot of different ways to do this. The easiest one that I have seen is to paint your blues, paint your purple. Before everything dries, get a nice wet brush and just kind of blend them together. Do that blending. Okay, and keep in mind, I am not perfect at any of this. The whole purpose of this video was to try all these different methods on one miniature. And at the end of this, you'll get to kind of see how that came to be, how that ended up looking. Okay, but that was with my giant rat. And I do dry brushing, I do slap chop, I do Zenithal priming on the bell, you know, and different things. And so trying everything out on this model. But those are the big 4. Those are the big 4 techniques in painting that everyone should be practicing, should be trying to figure out. Now, there's NMM, which is non-metallic metal. I haven't tried that yet. I'm going to. It will be in a future video, and I will show you if I succeed or if I fail. But I haven't tried that yet. It's one of those things that I'm still just like, nah, I'm a little bit away from that. But I'll get there.
That will never happen.
And I'll post a video when I do. A couple other little things that you should know about everyone who paints miniatures. Not everyone, obviously, not everyone, but most people that paint miniatures have what's called a wet palette. And what a wet palette is it's a sponge inside of a container with a piece of parchment paper on top of it. Can you make your own? Very easily. Can you buy one for 12, 13 bucks? Yeah, and it'll come with 100 sheets of parchment paper. Great investment. Look into it if you're planning on painting miniatures. And what it does is it keeps your paints wet. Okay, and that you might be thinking, oh, that sounds great. You know, I can start painting and then I can put it away, and 2 or 3 days later I can get it back out and paint some more. You're absolutely right. You can do that. But more importantly, it keeps the paint wet. Anyone who paints these miniatures is familiar with the phrase too thin coats. And what that means, I mean, there's even a paint line called too thin coats, right? And what it means is that you want your paints watered down. You want them thin. When it goes on, you don't want it to be just solid that color. You want it to be a thin layer of that color. Then you let it dry, and then you come back over with a second thin coat, and that should be where you want to be. Depending on the paint you use, you might have to do 3 thin coats. Sometimes you only have to do 1 thin coat, right? But that's what it means. And the wet palette will help keep that paint nice and wet, so you're not having to dip your paintbrush in water and then go back to the paint all the time. It'll just keep it thin the way that you want it to be. Most paints come pretty thick. Some of them you don't have to mix out of the bottle, but most of the time you do. And in my mind, you get some more use out of your paint. So they go a little further if you get to mix it yourself. And it's really 2 extra seconds. You know, you put a little water on it, you thin it out on the wet palette, whatever you need to do. And then lastly, just like I was talking about before, metals look great when you dry brush them. But it changes depending on what color you're dry brushing them over. If you want a dark, grungy, dirty looking metal, dry brushing over black or a dark blue or purple or something like that works awesome. You know, if you're going to do a sword and you want to do it just easy, prime that sword black and then just dry brush in silver over the top. You won't regret it. It looks awesome. I've done this bell specifically in a way where half of it's white, half of it's black, just so I can show the difference of how dry brushing will work on that with the Zenithal Prime. And if you're watching this video, you get to see what that looks like right now. When I first started getting into painting the miniatures, it was one of the coolest things I ever did. I remember looking at my first miniature after I had painted it and just being like amazed that I had accomplished a work of art. And I hope that if you're stepping into this, if you're doing this, that you feel that way too. I mean, all these people talk about how fun painting is, and it can be. It can be that way, but I also feel like I need to be getting better. You know, the more I paint, the better I'll get. The more practice you get, the steadier your hand becomes and everything just looks better. At least that's what I've been told. So here I am trying to do that. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for seeing how this all turned out. If you haven't had a chance to like and subscribe, please do so now, because that helps this channel. It helps us grow, and, you know, hopefully one day we'll be a full-fledged partner with YouTube and we'll get to do giveaways and sell merch and all that other stuff. Okay. Until then, we're just going to keep posting videos in an attempt to help you become better at whatever it is you want to become better at, and have more fun at whatever you want to have more fun at, as long as it's on the tabletop. Thanks for sticking around. And as always, don't spend so much time making your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Till next time.